It's your boy, Ed the Dread, aka Eddie Money Mouth. And you are tuned in to the Money Mouth Podcast. Yes, sir. You. Welcome to another Money Mouth Monday. Bears up, baby. First and foremost, Bow and Bear Surfing, MIL, season finale, team meet. Our boys finished second in all of the MIL. And our girls, although it wasn't announced at the meet, finished third in the MIL. Yeah. Now, to touch on that very quickly, we have a team of surfers that don't compete in the statewide competition. They don't go to HSA states on Oahu. They surf in high school. Some of them surf a little bit extra in their free time, but you know, as far as the Maui Interscholastic League, we have a lot of high schools that have competitors who compete all year round. You know, they don't play other sports. They're just surfers. They might have only gone to high school just to be a part of high school surfing. So when you take that into account, we have literally worked from the ground up, and all of our competitors put a lot of effort in all season, and the results showed up. So again, second place boys, third place girls, Bears up. See y'all in Hana for the individual championship. Yeah. Today's topic for the podcast is the first protest that I was ever involved in. We have had quite a number of protests here since I've been a part of this island community, whether it being Kukia'i Mauna for the war in Gaza and Palestine right now. We've gathered as a community and let our collective voice be heard at numerous places in numerous time periods here on the island. One thing that has been amazing was that there are children involved. You know, parents that would bring their kids to learn about whatever the thing is that is being protested. My parents never took me to such as a child, and I never even saw a protest until I was in college. So late teens, maybe 20 years old or so. Now, the story of that, I was able to tell just the other night when I went to make the purchase order run at Costco for the surf meet. Costco, a place I don't ever go to in my average daily activities. But due to the fact that we have a purchase order and a whole lot of surfers, I'm the guy that goes and chooses what we eat, which is cool. But with that said, when you roll in there, you got to give the purchase order to a supervisor before you start shopping so that the paperwork is a lot easier at the end. And as I walked in, I was wearing this keffiyeh. And the person who took the purchase order from me, you know, had to stare at it for a while just to see the actual weaving on it, right? And then once he was able to see that it was like fishing net and birds, that it was a Palestinian keffiyeh. And he happened to be a Palestinian individual living here on Maui. Now, we ended up having a little bit of a conversation, maybe 5 minutes, you know, exchange a few hugs. But the main point was that I got to share with him how I ever ended up having a keffiyeh, because I was gifted one back in like 2003, 2004, and then had it for maybe 15 years before I think I gave it to my brother. And now, full circle, I'm back to owning a couple of them. Two bought from the last keffiyeh factory in Palestine, which it took about 4 months to get through the Israeli blockade for me to receive them here on Maui. Now, the first protest that I ever was a part of or ever saw was a Palestinian protest against Israeli occupation and the U.S. government's assistance in such. It was around 2003 or 2004. I was in college, and my friend John, like one of my best friends growing up, we played soccer together, we played soccer together in high school, and then we just went to different colleges, and he ended up actually giving up on soccer a little later on, which at that point in my life, I felt, you know, like I had been, you know, my back was turned on by my best friend, but, you know, it's his life. He was living his life however the fuck he wanted, so what does that have to do with me? But he was in school for film production. So I believe like one of his projects, we were either on winter break or summer break, and he needed to go shoot B-roll down out in DC. So, we jumped on the metro, just went down all around the place. I believe we were in Northwest, somewhere around the White House, T Street, U Street, something like that, in that area. Um, and we're walking, and all of a sudden I just hear like the loudest sounds I've ever heard, human sounds. Uh, and maybe not the largest individual human sounds I've ever heard, but the largest group sound I ever heard. And I'm like, what is that noise? And we're both kind of like, yo, where's all this noise coming from? So, after following the sounds for a few blocks, we stumble upon what is a protest. Looking at it from a distance, we had no clue what was going on. I'm not sure how it ended up that my boy John left. If he actually came over to the group and then left after, or if he didn't and just left immediately. But it ended up that I was by myself at this protest where my life changed. I was, again, if you haven't paid attention to the podcast at all, the first time that I found out that people had died due to the fact that Columbus showed up was in college. They brainwashed us these beautiful nursery rhymes. Columbus sailed the ocean blue, 1492, Santa Maria. And, the professor in college actually told me what was up. The guy that played for Real Madrid knew I was on the soccer team and then started breaking us down information. Quick interlude, I was also wearing a Real Madrid jersey that evening, which is when he was looking at the keffiyeh, trying to figure out what the stitch was on it. I thought he was looking to see what club it was, so I was like showing him the jersey, and he was like, no, the keffiyeh. So that teacher was the first to let me know that people, the reality of things that happen in the world, because our education system is going to keep you away from the things they don't want you to know. So I'm at this protest, and I had my mind blown. I showed up, and first and foremost, it was like all brown people, which again, maybe that's why John left. Because, quick side note, John's a white dude. But I was just drawn to a big crowd of brown people, honestly, and trying to figure out what the fuck was going on. So I roll over there, and some of the most ridiculous things I've ever seen in my entire existence. They had pictures of the aftermath of casualties of Israeli airstrikes printed very large, like picket style, holding on sticks. And I'd never seen mutilated babies. I'd never seen dead people. Like all of the type of stuff that was on these posters and signs was things that I might have seen in a movie or a video game, and definitely not in a video game are you seeing dead babies. So it was just like, it was shock and awe. I was in shock. And then you sit there and you talk to the people and you find out it was, an awakening of sorts, because the first thing I was told was your government is helping to do this. Right. And again, I was probably maybe 20, 21, I would say. And I had not just started smoking herb, but, it had become maybe part of my life at that point. And also at that point, I was starting to see like the facade of our government. So I'm not going to say that it was the herb that made that happen, but before that, I had never thought about, why are there people in suits stepping over homeless people down here in our nation's capital, where they've taken us every single year for a field trip since I was in second grade. Things like that. So I'm at this protest, and I'm just completely mind blown. You wouldn't think that your government would take part in atrocities. You wouldn't think that civilians would be killed in anything. You wouldn't think. It's just all the things that I heard and saw and the stories that I got that day, which, I don't know the exact specifics verbatim because it was so long ago, but what I do know is that I learned a lot about where funds from our government go and what they're doing, which led me into, researching stuff for myself. And the internet had just gotten big back then. So I was actually able to use it for, knowledge gathering as opposed to fucking burning CDs and looking at porn, you know? Uh, so that protest resonated with me for a very long time. And that day, after standing there for hours with the people, when I wanted to leave, I was actually gifted my first keffiyeh. It's not this one, but if you look at my YouTube channel or you've seen any videos that I made in the last fucking 8 years, I've worn it a lot. And before I moved to Maui, I ended up gifting it, I believe, to my brother maybe a year or two before I moved. So he may still have it, but if not, it's all good. Um, I ended up wearing it for years and years and years. And with that garment, I kept the memory of what I saw that day. You know, Rage Against the Machine, Dead Prez. We'll even say maybe some mainstream rappers like Nas back in that time were definitely bringing these issues to the forefront, right? But in an artistic way, which, may or may not have hit home for some people. Um, I'm saying, I'm being taken back to that moment in time right now. It's like I got goosebumps, but I was thankful for that experience, and again kept that keffiyeh for a very long time because it meant a lot to me. It was the first time I had ever been amongst a big crowd of brown people pissed and wanting to fight against what capitalist society had done to them. It's like I grew up in the most fucking racist time. Maybe not the most racist time, but white male, black female in the mid-Atlantic area of the United States in the 80s wasn't a thing. 2000s, 2004, 2024, kind of a thing now, but back then, oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. So being able to be a part of a group of people that kind of look like me and had some actual information about the government other than what the news was spewing and my dad was regurgitating, it was a big change. A big change. Now, more recently, with all the things that are happening now in the genocide that's happening in Gaza due to Israeli forces and the backing of all these European and our government to do so, it it leads me to talk about the similarities between here and there, right? So I currently reside on the island of Maui in the state of Hawaii, which is occupied illegally by the United States forces. The difference between the occupation in Palestine and the occupation here is that in Palestine, they actually have voted into power a government that is willing to fight against the occupation. Here, no offense to him, but the Queen gave up the kingdom to the occupiers, and there was no battle. And there's been no battle for the last 100+ years. I mean, the citizens here, the Kanaka citizens, let me. I misspoke. There is a battle, right? But it's not a battle of weapons. If the Queen wouldn't have given up the islands with the naval brigade there and all the guys from the bayonet constitution, it would have been an all-out war. It would have been a bloodbath. I don't want to take a guess, but I would say that there wouldn't be many Kanaka left after that, right? So the reality of that giving up the kingdom was probably the wise thing to do. But with that said, it's been 100+ years of occupation of the United States government talking about this is the state of Hawaii. And it's the same thing as over there, 75+ years of occupation where a new government is here taking your land and telling you to get the fuck out. right? Imagine if the US government rolled up to all the Hawaiian homelands and was like, yeah, we want this too. We got some more settlers coming over from Nebraska, and we need these homes, bro. So y'all need to gets to stepping down to Kanaha or Kahakuloa or fucking somewhere else. Just go over there, and we gonna take all this. I'm sure that people would be fighting. At this point, so many people hunt and have their own guns that I'm sure they would be fighting. And that is kind of the point that I come to, is that these capitalist consumerist governments that have just been running amok around the planet for the last fucking 4, 5, 6, 700 years are still doing the same thing under the false facade of whatever, and using propaganda to brainwash you to think that it's okay. Right? Please, anyone out there that's listening, whether you think that like a genocide is happening, whether you think that whatever is going on in that war is legal on, international law or illegal, just keep in mind that children are dying. We'll just put that out there, and I mean like tens of thousands of children are dying, not soldiers. Like in Ukraine, them homies with soldiers in tanks and shit fighting people and dying. No, these are children, women, doctors, fucking media. Okay, so if you don't think that shit should stop, I think you tripping, right? But again, only bringing it up in the relation to what has happened here, and lastly, personally, I think that maybe one of the only ways that you can start to try to get back the Hawaiian Kingdom from the U.S. government is to actually, start like a Hawaiian Kingdom military, and stop having all the Kanaka sign up for the U.S. military, because, international law, you show up, you put your flag down, you can defend it, it's yours. That's how they roll, if you haven't seen anything. So if they had a military here having a say against it, maybe that might help, but also maybe they might just get blown up. Who knows? Now I'm just talking. And that was your Money Mouth podcast. The first protest that I went to and how it resonated with me. Again, heartfelt aloha out to all those out in the Gaza Strip. All right, everybody that's been affected by this war, that they call it war, which is just fucking ethnic cleansing of humans that are in a region. And, big up to anyone that's standing up for something they believe is right. Please do so. Don't just sit there and let life pass you by. Whether it's just by using your purchase power and what you buy with your dollar, and or standing on your platform and shouting it out into the universe. Whatever the deal is, please be a part of standing up for what's right. Because if not, it's just gonna be wrong. It's your boy Ed the Dread. If you liked it, click like. If you didn't subscribe yet, go on subscribe. And if you didn't just smash something. I don't even know what. I'm ready to smash some chickens. I'm ready to smash a wave. I'm ready to smash something. But we'll catch you next Monday. Holla, 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 holla.